over the past weekend here in Chicago at the wonderful headquarters of the Paderewski School of Music took place the American Council for Polish Culture 76th Annual Convention. And we have a great honor to have here with us three people from the very top of this organization. I have a pleasure to welcome Celia Larkin, president of the organization, Mark Szpak, recording secretary and legal counsel, and Mr. John Cebrowski, who is the member of the board of directors of this organization.
Yes.
Madam President, I want to start with you, and I want to ask you about the history and the mission of the ACPC.
Well, ACPC has a long history. We're just starting the fourth quarter century of our existence. It came into being in 1978, and maybe go a little further because there's a club in Buffalo, Polish Arts Club in Buffalo that was established 80 years ago. And 3 years later, they got together with some other cultural clubs throughout the United States, and they decided to establish an umbrella organization which would, should we say, coordinate, like a coordinating entity, or just for people to get together and talk about what they love to do, what they want to do as for Polish culture. Mr. Dzieckowski, a painter from Buffalo, he was the first president of the Buffalo Club, and then he became the first president of the American Council. At the time, it was called American Council for Polish Cultural Clubs. That name changed a few, quite a bit later. It was the name was considered good for a long time, but then it was changed because it reflected more American Council for Polish Culture. So that's how we're known now. So they held the first convention in Detroit, Michigan, and at the moment I don't recall exactly how many people were there, but you may remember.
Indeed. No, I'm sorry, I don't, but I think it was about close to 50 people.
At the original
yes.
convention.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So there were a number of organizations that got together, and with a mission, which I think the mission in one form or another still is the same, namely to promote Polish culture. How do you promote Polish culture? Of course, each club can do something in their own community, or as we say in Polish, na swoim podwórku.
Yep.
Or we can do it together and maybe have a greater impact. So, so basically, over the years, the clubs got together every year, discuss what they are doing, discuss what they can do nationally, what programs they can come up with and carry on. So there were many programs, and you can go on our website and look them up. It's enumerating them now would be very difficult.
Oh, definitely.
But the main thing was, and I think it's very important that we keep it now, that was the interchange of ideas. And I mean, each club does things like lectures and then get-togethers and cultural programs, music, art. We had an art competition as part of the ACPC for many years. It was held at Doylestown, Pennsylvania, called the Adam Sticka competition. Yeah. We carry for the past 50 years, we're carrying on a competition for young singers, classical singers, and it's named after Marcela Sembrych, the Polish opera singer who was born in Poland, but then spent most of her life abroad, and she was connected with the Metropolitan Opera in New York. She was very famous in her time, and so the competition is named after that, and each year we select one singer. We have many candidates. We have judges of prominence in the musical world, and then we hold a concert. The singer is presented at the concert at the convention, in addition to getting a monetary fund, because the purpose of that particular competition is to help artists at the start of their careers.
Yeah.
So this is for the singers, but as I mentioned before, there were the artists. We have something even for very young people. Like right now, we have a literary competition that different clubs sponsor, and we support it. So young people write essays on Poland and their experience in the Polish community and all that. So basically, this is just a nutshell. I mean, we could talk.
We could go on and on about the things that you do.
So this is basically the purpose, the mission, as we keep saying, is to promote Polish culture and to bring it to America, basically to Americans who may not know about Poland. And you'll be surprised how much Americans don't know about Poland and our Polish culture. I mean, there is Chopin, there is Paderewski, and few who are known, but we have so many artists who could be promoted.
It's the preservation, promotion, and propagation of Polish culture.
Exactly.
It's all three.
I think that the biggest value that the organization brings is that advocacy among non-Polish audiences.
Exactly.
Yes, we know works of Chopin, Paderewski. We know the famous Polish painters and writers, but most Americans have to be educated about that. And who better to do that than people of Polish ancestry?
Right. That's exactly right.
Who are the members of the organization right now?
Wow, that's a great question, Łukasz. Right now, we're up to 42 organizations in the United States.
Across 17 states, right?
Who, that are members of the ACPC. And in the last year, we added eight new organizations, including, I'm very, very proud to say, since we're sitting here in Chicago, the Polish Museum of America. The Polish Museum of America, right here in Chicago, a jewel, an American jewel. We're so happy to have them as a part of the organization. We added the Polish Club of Atlanta, the Polish American Association of Sarasota, Florida, the Piast Institute of Hamtramck, Michigan, the Polish American Museum in Port Washington, New York, and now we're all the way to the Rocky Mountains. The Polish Club of Denver is now a part of the ACPC, and we're trying to go C to C, and we've made great organizations. The whole idea, to take off on what Celia so well said, is unity. Unity. There is no organization in the United States, no Polish-American organization in the United States that does such a great job of unity, of bringing Polish Americans together. I think we all know that in some of Polish history has a fragmentation period. Well, we're not going to do that here. And we are striving for unity. And there's an opportunity for all of these organizations to learn from each other. And to take off on, again, what Celia said, I would highly recommend to your viewers and to your readers that they visit our brand new website. We just redid it. We rejuvenated it this past year. PolishCultureACPC.org. It is fantastic. It shows all the new organizations. It shows and it delineates the reasons, the rationale, why people should join. And it has an absolutely terrific president's message, that Celia wrote for it, that is it's just outstanding. It shows all the scholarships that we offer, all the competitions that we offer, all the awards that we offer. This is one growing dynamic organization now in its 76th year. So, I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I'm a member of one of our organizations down there, the Polish Heritage Center in Panna Maria. And Panna Maria, not Panna Maria. Yeah. Panna Maria, tak? And so we're so proud down there, to be a part of this organization. The Austin Polish Society in Texas is another organization in Texas that's a part of the ACPC. We're all over. And next year when we have our convention in Buffalo, I'm hoping that I can say to the whole team that we're now on the West Coast. I'm working real hard on Seattle right now.
It's going to be from C to C.
We are going to be from C to C, no question.
We say, you know, Chicago is reputed to be the second largest Polish concentration of people outside of Warsaw. But if you take all of the communities that we represent through our organizations that are members of the ACPC, we think we're giving Warsaw a run for its money.
Right. What is the condition, overall condition of Polish culture in the United States? Based on what you said, John, since the number of organizations joining American Council for Polish Culture, it's better than ever. It's growing. It's expanding. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, I think you are right. Because there's a new wave of interest that's taking place. There were many, many years. My parents came to the United States in 1951. There were a lot of circumstances that have existed over the years that I think have resulted in the inability, the difficulties with advertising, disseminating, advocating for Polish culture. That are now no longer present. There really is a renaissance of interest, a renaissance of opportunity. The new generation of emigres who are now coming to the United States. Our theme of our convention is the post-solidarity immigrants to the United States. It's an injection of energy and art and culture that not only generates interest in the new people who are here, but in the traditional Polish history and Polish culture that many people are familiar with. But now they're sort of reacquainting themselves with it. And the carriers of that are the new generation that is coming here. Yesterday, we had a concert last night by Michał Drewnovski.
Wonderful professor.
And a fabulous concert, just a fabulous concert. And well, one of the highlight of the evening was when Jarosław Gołębiowski, our first vice president, wrote. He had written an original composition dedicated to the vice chair of the Chopin Society, the Chicago Chopin Society, that was performed for the first time in public. It was a world premiere by Michał Drewnovski. He admitted to being a little anxious about performing a world premiere in front of the composer, and also in front of the person to whom the work was dedicated. So it was a very exciting and dramatic evening, but very successful. And that just epitomizes. We had a full room at this lovely facility at the Academy of Music for the Paderewski Orchestra Symphony. It just was a lovely event. And what we are trying to do is encourage the spread of information amongst our members, the sharing of resources amongst our members for cultural events, musical events, art events, literary talks, so that our organizations can learn from each other and share from each other and replicate this kind of propagation of Polish culture across the United States.
Of course, we cannot be just everything is rosy, because we know there are challenges, and we're not the only ones. We're not, as Poles, we're not the only ones, but other nationalities and other communities are experiencing the same problems because, I mean, the society has changed. The media are coming in after the pandemic. Of course, there were a lot of challenges with that. So it really takes a lot of work to bring the people together. It's not that we just say, okay, we call on everybody and everybody comes and we sing Kumbaya. It requires a lot of work to make this thing work. And yes, we're always looking, and there were ups and downs. There were more clubs throughout the history. Then it dropped down. Now we're rebuilding. We're rebuilding to
taking off.
Yes, yes. But when you say unity, it's not that we're all the same. That's why I gave this example of a diamond, because last year for 75th anniversary on the cover of our convention book, we have a diamond with red and white. And when you look closer, you see the facets. So that's why I think of our clubs. Each one is a facet of this stone. We're not a monolith with a stone where one facet reflects of another. So this is, if you want an analogy, that's how we can look at it. And
yes, when poles are together, it's amazing what we can do, right?
Yeah, it's
Łukasz?
a force of nature, honestly.
It really is. And the ACPC is that force of bringing us. I travel all over the United States, promoting the ACPC and promoting the Polish Heritage Center down there in Pana Maria, and they love it. They want that. They want that unity. They want what Celia is speaking to. We're delivering what they want. And Mark makes a fantastic point here about the recent immigrants, the pre and the post solidarity immigrants who have come here. They have fueled the fire because they want to stay close to their heritage. And they have been a big, big addition.
It really reinstills a level of interest in the second generation here and the third generation here to see that kind of energy. That's what's really important for people like me, whose parents came over in 1950. Mówię po polsku, but my children don't as much. But when they see this excitement,
yes,
and the creativity that's coming over, it does generate their interest, and I think that's really important.
Yeah.
What is so great about Chicago is, as I mentioned in my opening remarks at the convention, is that we have, at this convention, we have Chopin Society established 20 years ago. We have Polish Arts Club of Chicago, which was established almost 100 years ago. We have the Polish Museum that was established in, let's say, was it 1927, around that period of time. And then we have the Paderewski Symphony Orchestra that is in it, and the Paderewski Symphony Orchestra and the Chopin Society could be called the post-solidarity immigration. So the achievements that they have are the ones that we're celebrating at this convention.
Let me ask you about these conventions. These are annual events, and you organize them in different cities.
Yes.
Here in Chicago, there's going to be a couple of concerts. There's going to be a nice banquet. There's going to be ample opportunities for you to network and exchange ideas. Is it like this every year? Everywhere you go, you organize events. Tell me how those conventions usually look like.
Exactly. Last year is very much like what we're doing this year. Last year we were in Troy, Michigan, outside of Detroit. That was because it was our 75th year, and the first convention in 1948 was in Detroit. So we came back to Detroit to celebrate that. And we had, just as this year, we had meetings with the local political figures, honorary consuls from the Detroit area came and visited. The Chicago consul at the time came to, Pavel Zizak came and visited us at the opening ceremony of the convention. And then we had presentations over the course of the 2-3 days of meetings, presentations by various of the committees made up of elected and appointed representatives from our membership about the various activities that are taking place, the publications, the competitions, the music competitions, all of that. We had elections every year. It's a very established sort of legal structure that we try to maintain. And same thing in San Antonio when John Cebrowski hosted us all down in San Antonio 2 years ago. It was very similar to that. And then we met at that point. Richard Ruszewski came and visited us. He was the consul from the Polish consulate.
In Houston,
in Texas, in Houston. And then the year before that, we were in Washington D.C.
Yes.
There was, there were hiatus during COVID. We did Zoom, but that's just we really picked up without losing a step, without dropping a step once COVID was over.
Since I organized the convention in Washington, I have to mention that we don't, as a Polish American Arts Association in Washington, we don't have a home, we don't have a Polish neighborhood there. But I am a member of the Arts Club of Washington, and we hold some of the events there. And what we did, we organized our convention at a hotel which was next door to the Arts Club, and we held that in the building, a historic building that used to be the home of President Monroe. So it is a historical object. But why I'm mentioning that is that when in Washington, when we have events like Vigilia or a Chopin concert or whatever, if we do it in the arts club, that means we're connecting with the American arts community.
This is invaluable, honestly.
That was what's important.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that because here in Chicago, we're really spoiled. The Polish culture is prevalent. Everywhere we turn, we have Polish musicians, Polish writers, Polish events. Right. We are flooded by different like theater groups or music bands who are coming over from Poland and performing here. The culture here is booming. How does it look like in your local community? Growing,
Łukasz. You know, I can speak for the state of Texas, and a lot of that is fueled by what I mentioned earlier about the pre and post solidarity agreements. It's on the rise. It is on the rise, and I'd like to emphasize that the diplomatic corps, whether it be the consulate in Houston, the consulate in Chicago, in New York, wherever. Very, very supportive, very strong, very strong relationship there. And we would like to thank, the Foreign Service, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for their support. It's consistent. It's consistent and greatly valued. We really appreciate it. In regard to where our locations are, where the conventions are, is that, where various organizations have the opportunity to volunteer. Volunteer to be the host, and most of the times they do that. Now we just have Buffalo just volunteered, to host this next year. That's outstanding. And it's an opportunity to show off what's going on in the area. And I think one of the best examples of that was last year when we were in Troy, in Southfield, Michigan. There's a very special cemetery which honors the Blue Army. And I know your readers and viewers understand that in General Holler. And we had a major event out there in Southfield about that. That was an incredible experience. So whenever we go to these different locations in different cities, we take advantage of the historic aspects of that community. And there's always something new. There's always something to learn. When we were down there in Texas, going to Panamaria, which is the site of the first and the oldest permanent Polish settlement in the United States, is another good example. We conduct our board meetings in places where there are also historic sites. I remember a couple of years ago, Celia, we were in Savannah for the Kazimierz Pulaski reenactment there. Yes. So we always try to emphasize that history. We're linking, all of that together.
Another example, in Boston, what we're finding is that the Polish community, obviously itself, is not monolithic. There are a lot of different classes. Classes is the wrong term. A lot of different sort of areas of involvement. We had an event last year in Boston on the occasion of the American College of Surgeons holding their annual convention in Boston. It was going to be attended by a delegation from Poland. 15 of the leading Polish surgeons and doctors were going to be in Boston. So we had to have an event. We arranged for a facility, a beautiful room overlooking the harbor, and invited them for a reception and sent out invitations to doctors of Polish background across Boston. These are people who are recent emigres, consistent with our theme this year, established themselves as leading doctors within the Boston hospitals. And it was an opportunity for us to invite them and invite other members of Polonia in the area to a single gathering, to a single event, so that people could get to know each other, meet with each other. When we focus on culture, it's culture writ large. Yes, music, art, but it's also community. It's also interaction and establishing these kinds of connections that will facilitate the growth that John is talking about across a broad range of areas.
Wow.
And I want to mention this. I don't know how long we have over time, but I just want to mention, let's not forget that we go to Poland for the convention every several years.
The last one organize it in Poland.
In Poland. In 2019, we were in Warsaw, but at other times we're in Kraków, in Gdańsk, in other localities. Obviously, you can't do it every year because of the logistics and expenses. But so, in addition, as John mentioned, there is connection with the Polish diplomatic community here, and they have, because the Polish government has also as a mission to promote Polish culture abroad, so they support certain events. They have grants, and again, I will go to Washington because there is one event that takes place on the third weekend of June, and you can guess what it is. It's called Bianchi. And we have groups, actually dance groups coming from different places, and that we get a nice subsidy from the Polish embassy. And it really has become a national event, even though it is organized and actually sponsored by the Polish American Arts Association. And this year, we had also a grant from ACPC, because there's another thing. We do give each year 1 or 2 matching grants for an event that promotes Polish culture, organized by a local club.
That's great.
Right.
There's so much that you do.
Right.
You support young artists, but you also recognize people who have achieved a lot in their careers. And I know that this year you will give out several awards. Could you talk about people who are recipients of the awards at the Chicago convention?
That
Jarosław
yes.
Gorąbijewski,
Jarosław
as our local host, is your
Yes.
best source of information for
on that.
yes, because there are
for-
two Chicago personalities very active in the organizations who are receiving the awards.
That's Tadeusz
But
Mirecki
one
and
has to
Jessica
be
Gill.
mentioned. There is Ted Mirecki. Ted
Yes.
Mirecki has a long history with ACPC. He was a president of the organization. He is very much knowledgeable. I wouldn't say just interested, very knowledgeable in music. So he promotes that. Plus, he's from Chicago. When he came from Poland, he lives in Chicago. His sister lives here. In fact, the award that he's getting, the Lifetime Achievement Award, will be accepted by his cousin, who works at who's connected with the Polish Museum of America.
Fantastic. So yeah, that's a great idea. We have to invite Mr. Gołębiowski and talk to him about the summary after the event's going to be concluded.
Yes.
We'll have a nice interview and we'll summarize what was accomplished here. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Honestly,
Thank you for having us.
I cannot find good enough words to thank you for everything that you do. Not just here, not just at this convention, but when you go back to your local communities. Your contributions are really priceless, and because people like you, Poland has the best possible advocates, not just Polish culture, Poland as a whole. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guests today were Celia Larkin, President, John Cebrowski, member of the Board of Directors, and Mark Szpak, Recording Secretary and Legal Counsel for the American Council for Polish Culture, who have had the 76th annual convention this past weekend here in Chicago. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.